Hello everyone, it's your sister Roland, and all I need is a few minutes. And today we're going to talk about this young boy's life that ended so tragically. We're going to first go over this post from Magically Melanated on Instagram where they talk about Robert Yummy Sandifer. They called him Yummy according to his family because he loved to eat. And he ate a lot, though he was so small. He was such a small and short little boy, but he ate a lot, so that's why they called him Yummy. So let's go. My name is Robert Yummy Sandifer, and by the time I died at 11 years old, I had 23 felonies and 5 misdemeanors. He was born on March 12, 1983 on Chicago's aka Chirac infamous South Side. Yummy would become the poster child of inner city struggle in America. Deemed unfit to take care of her son, Yummy's mother gave him to his grandmother. Yummy's grandmother's house was filled with 19 people as residents, leaving him open to continued neglect, so he began to lash out and misbehave. Social workers realized that Yummy's grandmother wasn't too much more different than his mother. As Yummy got older, he seen that no one cared about him but himself. He quit school at 8 years old and ran the streets of Chicago. A neighbor said Yummy would ask a kid for 50 cents. If the child was scared and gave it to him anyway, he would ask for another 50 cents and just take it. He had every element of neighborhood bullies packed in one 4 feet 6 inch body. Underneath the terror that Yummy brought to the streets, he was very loving towards his close friends. In the last year and a half of his life, Yummy was on average receiving a felony a month. This is an 11-year-old. In total, he had 23 felonies and misdemeanors under his belt before the age of 12. August 28, 1994, Yummy was ordered by the BDs, that is the Black Disciples, to take a hit out. We don't know who the hit was for, but they ordered him to do it. He walks into a crowd full of people with his 9mm, and I think this happened at night. This happened at nighttime, and shoots at everyone in his way. He kills his neighbor, Siobhan Dean. So he killed this young girl. I think she was 14 years old. He killed her. Yummy is on the run now for the last 3 days of his life. The BDs, Black Disciples, moved him around between safe houses and abandoned houses. No one could believe an 11-year-old did that. Now he began to get scared. He figured the gang protection was in so he went back to his neighborhood and stood on the front porch of a neighbor he knew. He's scared. She comes outside and he asks if he can call his grandmother so he can turn himself in and to pray for him. I'm not sure which grandmother is the actual grandmother, because he also had a great grandmother who I think she was like a pastor. Because in the funeral, the way she spoke like somebody, he was like a pastor or somebody that does stuff in the church. The neighbor goes inside of the house to make the phone call, so as she comes back outside, he's gone. Yummy ran into 2 fellow BD members, and that's Derek and Craig Hardaway, and those were the ones who allegedly took him out. And in the picture, in the slideshow, you're going to see his sister, screenshots of his sister. Yummy ran into 2 fellow BD members. They promised to get him out of town, so he gets in a car with them and they drive off. They drive to a railroad underpass, then tell Yum to get out of the car. He does. They tell him to get on his knees, and then the other way they tell him to get on his knees, and then the other way he does. Then they proceed to take him out. This is how this young boy's life ended. So that was like an overview of this young boy's tragic life. And Media Burn Archive, that's why I got most of the screenshots for this video. They did a very, very good job of getting footage from documentarian Andrew Jones, who went and interviewed different people in the neighborhood, interviewed the family about this young man. So if you want to see that documentary, there's other people that did documentaries, but I watched that one to get context because he interviewed the family. Well, he had footage of people interviewing the family, so you can get more insight into this young boy's life. And from the very beginning, this young boy, I mean, he really didn't have a chance because the mother, he had, even the children said he had burns on him, he had marks and different things. He would be left with kids, he would be left with 3-5-year-olds. So he really didn't have a chance, him and his other siblings, but mostly him, because the mother really didn't have a relationship with him. She even called him Granny's baby. She had no emotional attachment to him, and that is what happens to a lot of mothers and sons. It's most of the time it's never balanced. It's either they coddle the child, they emasculate them, they treat them as their little boyfriends, or they just don't have no relationship with the child. They have no emotional attachment with that child. And she didn't have any emotional attachment with him at all. Because even when the reporters was trying to ask a question, did you raise him? What type of relationship you had? It was like nonchalant, like, somebody who's detached. Whereas the grandmother was like crying out and say, oh my goodness, Yummy gone, he ain't never coming back no more, and stuff like that, which I feel sorry, and then I don't feel sorry. Because why? Because all of you guys failed him. Because though people that really knew him, like the younger kids, they say he was a very bad kid, but then there were adults that say he was a good kid. He did show respect. So the thing is the environment. Is because when we have children, we need to protect them. They are impressionable. They are naive. Though you may train them, you may raise them in a certain way, but you also have to protect them from, people certain people that you bring in their lives, certain people in the community. You have to protect them because you're the parent. You know better than them. So with the foster care system, most of the time that's a hit or miss. Sometimes the child end up with great foster parents, and sometimes, as we know, they don't. So that may have been a hit or miss, but so many people failed this young man. And he, obviously, if he would have had caring and supportive adults, his life probably would have been went in another direction, because he would have been today. I think his birthday is coming up on the 12th. He would have been 39. He would have been 39 if he was still here, but he's no longer here. And then with the grandmother, I feel sorry for her, and then I don't feel sorry for her, because that cry was a guilt-ridden cry, because she realized she failed this young boy. She realized she really failed him. Maybe it's different stuff that she could have done. And people say, oh, you don't know that. Yes, because me raising children, there are things that, like I say, I don't know how people raise children without God, because even if you have a mother and father, you still need certain stuff you don't know about your children, certain stuff they're doing you don't know, certain people around them that want to come around them you don't know. That's why I always say, have a relationship with God, because he knows all things. He knows the past, present, and future. He knows what goes on. And I remember when my children was not supposed to have social media, and then I heard God clear as day tell me, oh, the girls have a social media account. I could have dismissed that. And say, you know what, I was just thinking stuff like that. But you know what, I was like, let me investigate. And doing an investigation, asking them questions, came to find out it was true. They had just opened it. And I told them they turn that off now, because at that time they were very young. it was not an appropriate age to have a social media account. And I don't know those, and then at that time they were going through I was going through a lot with them. I was getting calls from the school doing. So when I'm doing these videos, I'm speaking from experience. I'm speaking from experience. One of them was getting suspended. I mean, getting all kind of, I was, at a point in time, I was just afraid to pick up the phone. That's how much calls I would get. And then now, if I didn't have God to lead me every step of the way, I don't know where those children, my kids would be at this time. Because now it's not, thank God, it's not how it used to be. I'm still learning. I'm still getting there. So that's why it's certain tools, it's certain wisdom, it's certain advice, it's certain people God placed in our way to help us to raise our children. And because we can't do it ourselves. But most of the time, because we don't see these children as blessings, we see them as burdens, we see them as a paycheck, we see them as a commodity, we see them as a way to get back at somebody. That's why we cannot benefit and see the blessings that they are. Because, many people see these children as paychecks. And people may say, why God keep on giving these kids to these type of people that don't take care of them? Yes, just as God gives you free will to choose against them, he also give you free will to choose right and wrong. He says, I give you a choice. You have blessings and curses in front of you. He encouraged you to choose blessings. There's good and evil in front of you all the time. He encourages you to do good, because there is a judgment day. And if God did not give us free will where we could get to choose whether we should do right or wrong, his judgment would not be fair. But his judgment is fair because he gives us the choice to choose right or wrong. And it's not like, oh, there's things that come before us and he just let us do. No, most of the time, if you talk to certain people, they will tell you, something tell me, don't do this. My conscience, those that have a conscience, I felt wrong. I felt I wasn't supposed to do that. I felt, you need to do better. You need to take care of your children. People, if we really speak to people, people would always tell us, I know I wasn't supposed to do it, but I did it anyway. That's what you're going to get judged on. That's exactly what you're going to get judged on. So God gives these people these children because he knows you. He put inside you what you have to take care of that child. But people can still have the right not to do the right thing. And God can't go against. God can actually come and make everybody do the right thing. Make the world a better place. Make everybody stop doing evil. But why would he do that? He wants you to choose to do the right thing. He wants you to choose to raise your children. He wants you to choose. Let me take my time and choose a mate. So that will be able to be there to help me to raise my children. You see, he's not going to impose himself on you, make you do the right thing. Because that's not God. That's the devil. But he wants us to choose ourselves because he put it inside of us. But he's not going to, force you to do anything. And then it was this story. This was just so tragic, and how you see all the kids. I think it's probably his brothers and sisters, probably cousins, and probably neighborhood kids just crying. Some of them crying because how the grandmother was crying because the grandmother was crying out, and some of them was crying because they really gonna miss their little brother. They really gonna miss their cousin, and he's not gonna be there no more. And then this boy's life just cut off, and then it's the lady in one of the sideshows. She spoke some truth there. People really need to invest in their children. Really need to invest in their children. I mean, and that's the reason why we have so many of these young kids being subject to gangs and abuse and different things like that. And I know after this, probably the gangs probably tighten up, because they just sent this little boy out to do this hit, but he probably didn't have no training. He didn't know what to do. And then that's how, so he was like a liability. So they had to get rid of that liability. That's why they took him out. They didn't train him. They didn't, whatever they do in those guys. I'm sure they probably fix it up, before they send these little kids, because they recruit these little kids to do these crimes for them, because, they kids, even if they get in trouble, they're not gonna be there forever. So that's why they get these kids. That's why it's so important for us as parents. We have to protect our children, because there's a relationship you enter, you setting up your children. There's a place that you continue to live. You don't make an effort to get out of that environment. You setting up your children. You setting up. That's the way you choose not to raise your children. You are setting up your children for failure. Even though they have manners, even though they know what they're supposed to do, but there's an environment, there are people that are around your children will not make it. And that lady also said something very important, because people say, oh, you could train kids, you could do what they want, but they still end up doing bad stuff. But if you train them in the way they should go, just like she said, the apple doesn't fall far away from the tree. Yes, they're gonna stray, because they're gonna rebel. They're gonna go test out. Yeah, they have. Thank you, Isabel. They got friends and stuff like that. That's gonna influence. But if you had instilled in them, they're gonna get back on the right track. Speaking for me, I was raised a certain way, but then I rebelled and went my own way, thinking I knew better, and then I paid a big price, a big price, and I came back to what was instilled in me from the beginning. But if you don't never instill in these children, you just let them grow up. And it's so much yummies this day walking around, so much yummies that are in the grave. And one thing they don't, yes, you lose your child, but that guilt, because parents are not supposed to bury children. Even if, your child got sick, and then they lose their life, that's even hurt. But then when something that could have been prevented, this was a preventable death, if people actually cared and loved this child, cared enough, because the grandma was saying, oh, he gone, Yummy gone. Yummy was been gone. This little boy was 11 years, so he been left his grandma's house. It was 19 people living in the house. I don't know how much rooms it was, but it's obviously, when my daughter say it was a 3-bedroom house, 19 people. So, and then the mother was nowhere around. So people in the house probably didn't think he belonged there, because they paid more rent. You don't know what was going on. And then like he said, his name Yummy came from, he liked to eat a lot. So you like to eat all these people food. Your mommy ain't giving nothing, even if she getting a check, because that's what sometimes they have all these kids for. Some people have all these kids to get a welfare check. She probably ain't giving the grandma nothing, or it's not enough. You want to eat up everything. So he probably didn't feel welcome. He probably didn't feel that he belonged there, because even when he went on the neighbor's porch to tell the neighbor, to tell the neighbor to call his grandma so he prayed for him, he didn't even wait. If he really felt welcome there, why did he not wait for his grandmother? So this boy ended up, that's why that guilty cry was coming out of him. You don't know the last time she saw that young man. And though this happened in 1994, this was so real. It's like it just happened yesterday, but it happened in 1994. And this is going to keep on happening, because we have people having children that don't care. And we can say, blame God. Oh, God needs to stop giving these people things. It's not God. God gave everybody free will. He gave you the capacity to know right from wrong. You know what is right. You know what is wrong. God can't force you to do the right thing. God can't force you to do the wrong thing. That's your choice. But then we want to blame, God needs to stop giving that. And then now you kind of understand, which is still not right, why the government was sterilizing some of these women, though it was not right. But when you see all these stuff going on, you're not taking care of your children. You letting them grow up. You letting them run the streets. You letting the streets raise them. You letting the environment raise them. This is what we get. We get 11-year-olds in gangs and taking people out, taking a 14-year-old that had all her life ahead of her. Him also, he could have been anything. This is such a tragedy, and then this really, this is such a tragedy, because I remember that's probably why I didn't want to do the story, because my daughter been sent me the story to do, but it had to take me some time, because especially when we losing our young men in this manner, because people just don't care. People just don't care. And then you, in the community, though we, the parents may not care, grandmother and whatever, because sometimes the grandmother, they don't even know what to do with these children. Because you can't really blame the grandmother in a sense too, because when she was raising her children, and then these children that she has to raise, that's two different generations. So she probably didn't even know what to do with the young. She may have loved him in a sense, but not loved him enough to, really put the effort to say, hey, I really need to help you. You're not going to go down this route. And as we are losing so much of our men and us in the community, some of these kids are too far gone. You can't even really speak to them, because you have to be very careful who you go up to. I'm telling you, be very careful. Some of them are so far gone. They are so out of order. They defy all order. They defy all authority. So you have to have discernment. You have to have wisdom. If you're even going to go speak to these children to reprimand them, you have to be careful. But some of them who you are able to speak life into them. You'll be surprised. Because I've always, that's why I always take the time when I see young men, if I see young women that I'm able to speak to, I speak life into them. I say, come on, you can do better than this. You can be anything in this life. You don't need to choose this life. Because if that's the little I can do, you that difference. Trust me, a word. I know words people have spoken to me, positive words, even negative words. Those have carried me through. That make me don't give up in this life. That show me, hey, though my mom and my dad and my grandma and my grandfather didn't care about me, but this person cared enough for me. That's the only thing. That's the most stuff. And then you as parents, protect your children. Train them in the way they should go. Protect them also. You have to put actions into. You have to be a role model also. You can't say this one thing and then we do the next. And like I say, I'm speaking from, it was not easy, and I'm still going through it. But when I put the effort, and I raise my children, though they, once I know I put them the tools that they need, raise the tools that they need, and raise them the way they should go. Though they may stray, they will come back. So that's all I had to say on this situation. Remember, if you wanted to watch the whole interviews, they even interviewed the young lady that he took out, aunt, and she said she even knew them. This is such a tragedy. I mean, this was a sad story. This was such a sad story to cover. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you in another video. Bye.